So to begin with, I just turned my cardstock paper over and I placed my little stocking down and I traced out the shape of the stocking and I got 5 of these little stocking shapes, and so now I'm just going to be gluing them down onto my little stocking, and then what I have in mind to do is to cut a piece off just for the top portion. But I'm kind of thinking it through because I'm thinking that maybe it's not going to be so easy to string through the hole. I will have to figure out a way how to make that hole over, but nonetheless I'm going to be gluing this down with some hot glue once my hot glue gun dries, and we're going to start from there. And then in the meantime, while I'm doing that, I'm also going to be painting the Christmas trees. I'm going to be giving them a coat of this white paint, so I'm going to kind of be multitasking. Okay, so what I went ahead and did was I cut a strip of that microfiber fleece cloth and I cut it, and there's still plenty of this cloth left over. I'll be able to use it for a ton of projects. So I wanted to kind of take advantage of this stitch edge, the finish edge. So I want to put the finish edge on the bottom of that lip and kind of fold it over like that so it could be furry. So I'm just going to be using this one as my template to cut off the rest of the pieces that I'm going to need for my other stockings so that we can begin. And I'm simply using this as my template to cut the pieces off, and I'm going to continue doing this 4 more times until I get all the pieces that I need. So now that we got all of our pieces, it's time to adhere our cardstock to the board, and I'm just going to go ahead and apply some hot glue diligently all over the board, and I'm going to apply my cardstock and press that down. So now that we got our cardstock glued down, I'm going to add a line of glue right on the trim. So now that we got that trim glued down, we're just going to take it around the back and pull it over and add another bead of glue around the back. So now that we got our little assembly line going here with all of our little stockings, we're just going to set them to the side and we're going to move on to the next step, which is to throw a coat of paint on our little trees. So I'm trying to multitask here, so I'm just going to take my little trees and throw a coat of that white paint on them and give them some drying time so that we can start putting everything together. So after giving my little trees ample drying time opportunity, I decided to go over them with a dry brush, and I just had some gray paint and I deposited whatever was left on that brush onto the trees to give it sort of a stipple dry brush technique. Then I stumbled upon these little bling gems that I had in my craft stash, and they're just Dollar Tree self-adhesive bling gems, and I decided to do a fix-all, if you will, and sort of camouflage that little hole that's in the top of the star. And then I realized that it sort of resembled a berry, and I said, hey, why not put one on each and every single branch to sort of emulate berries on the tree? And I kind of liked the way that that was looking, so I did it 5 more times on all the trees. So with the magic of video, I've now done them 5 more times, and now we have all of our little ornaments ready to display. So from there, what's next to do is to measure out the length of the jute rope that we're going to be stringing our ornaments from. And once you have the desired length, it's now time to start attaching the ornaments. And I'm showing you here that even though I painted the back of the ornaments, I'm not going to be stringing them through the hoe, which is why I added that bling gem onto the hoe in the front, because since I covered the hoe from the stockings, if I would have strung it through the hoe on the tree, they weren't going to hang evenly. So I decided I'm just going to glue them onto the jute. So once we have the desired length of our jute, we're going to create 2 little loops on each end, and that's where we're going to hang it from. So you're going to place those 2 loops on top of each other, and you're going to fold that jute in half, and that's how we're going to get the center of our jute, by just creasing it together. And we're just pinching that center and making like a crease, and that's where we're going to be placing our first ornament. So now that the center of that jute has been determined, I now have a starting point for my ornaments. So I'm just going to be placing that stocking right in that center point, just by adding a bead of hot glue right onto that fur there. And I'm just going to, like I said, just place a line of that hot glue right on top of that fur, and I'm going to be attaching it right in that center point. And my apologies for being temporarily out of frame, but I am going to show you here that I did just lay that jute right onto that bead of glue to secure it firmly in place. So now that we determined the starting point by placing down our first ornament and seeing how it hangs, we can now proceed with attaching the remaining ornaments. And so what I'm showing you here is that I'm placing a tree on either side of the stocking, and then I'm going to be placing a stocking on either side of each tree, making it one stocking, one tree, one stocking, one tree, and so on and so forth. And what I'm going to be utilizing to assure even placement is the little hole that's in the top of that star. That's where I'm going to be placing my dollop of glue to attach my jute onto. So this will ensure even placement throughout. So not to have to deal with my measuring tape, I'm going to be using the stockings as a spacer in between to determine the distance between each ornament. So as I'm showing you here, I was using those 2 stockings as spacers to decide where placement of my next ornament is going to be. And then I'm just going to place it in that spot by attaching a dollop of glue as such and placing the jute right on top. Don't be afraid to go over your work with a little extra glue right on top, and this is just going to add some extra security to assure that your ornaments are not going to fall off. And you see me here just adding an extra bead of glue onto each ornament, and I'm not being stingy with the glue at all. So, because I reside in a small New York apartment, I don't have a fireplace, how I wish, but you have to improvise, right? So, I decided to hang it on my curtain rod as such to display it and show you how it will be displayed once I decide to decorate for the holiday season. Okay, so I have a little bonus footage here. I have these 2 Dollar Tree wreaths that I purchased last year and didn't do anything with them. I'm sure they're going to have them in store this year again, but these are just from the Christmas House collection, and they're 18-inch wired wreaths. I just popped the tags off of them, and they're a little bit sparse on their own. They're kind of sadly looking. So what I'm thinking to do is I'm going to intertwine them together to make them look fuller. So what I'm doing right now is just opening up all the little branches to fluff it up so that I could intertwine them both and fill it up. And then the reason why I call this a bonus footage was because I wasn't even going to share this with you guys because I didn't record the painting of this little DIY decor plaque from the Dollar Tree. And all I did was hit it with some paint. I just threw some gray and black and red on the bottom, and then I freehanded some snowflake-like stars, if you will, with a paint marker from the Dollar Tree, and I added some bling gems to the middle and a little self-adhesive Santa hat also from the Dollar Tree. And because I went ahead and did this off camera, I almost didn't include this in this video. So as you see, all I did was kind of like spread it out, and the more I spread it out, you can see like the wiring underneath. So, which is okay because now all I'm going to do is put this one on top, and to attach them together, I'm just going to intertwine the branches since they are made out of wire. I'm just going to take two branches from the top one and take it underneath the bottom like this and twist it around in the back, and that's it to tie it together. And I'm going to continue doing that all the way around the wreath. So already I'm liking it 10 times better just by doing that. You'd be amazed. Look how the difference between the one and then putting the two together and fluffing it up. Now it actually looks like a wreath. So I have some of this buffalo check ribbon that I purchased from Michael's, and it was originally $15, but I got it half off with a coupon. So I'm going to be attaching some of this buffalo check ribbon to create a hanger and a bow on the top. So to create a hanger for my wreath, I'm just going to insert some of this buffalo check ribbon right into my wreath and measure it for size. And what I'm showing you here is that that first piece of ribbon was folded in. So I'm just going to go one row longer, and I'm cutting it right on that row of check so that I can fold that piece in equal in size to the other piece and then fuse them together with some hot glue. So now all that's left to do is to try my hands at creating a bow on top of that hanger, and I have plenty of ribbon left to do that with. So, although I'm not the best at making bows, I'm going to try my best to give it a shot. And I'm showing you here that I'm starting by leaving a length of that ribbon out. And that length is going to act as one of my tails. And then I'm going to create about 3 or 4 loops. And then at the end of my last loop, once I'm satisfied with how many loops I want, I'm going to leave out another length of ribbon, and that's going to act as my second tail. Okay, so hopefully I could explain this to the best of my ability. I'm showing you here that I have 4 loops on each side, and then I have my 2 pieces of ribbon hanging on either end. So now I'm just going to take that ribbon and sort of cinch it in the middle, and I'm just kind of making my 2 thumbs meet together in the center and just pinching it there. And then now I'm going to take this pipe cleaner and I'm going to fold it in half, if you will, just so that it can be a little more sturdy. And then I'm going to take that and I'm going to wrap it around that center portion that I cinched, and I'm going to give it a good twist right there in the center to hold everything together. So I actually had enough give on that Chanel stem to wrap it around that center that I cinched a couple of times to add more stability to my bow. So now it's just a matter of pulling apart those loops and zhuzhing it, if you will. And so bear with me, I'm not an expert, but I am trying here. So I'm just kind of like taking the loops and pulling them from side to side in opposite directions and fluffing. And it's just a matter of fluffing and zhuzhing until you're satisfied with how your bow turns out. Well, because bows and ribbons take practice and patience, two things of which I have none of, it is going to take me a while before I can perfect it, but you do get the gist of it. And so now I'm going to move on to the next step, which is to ducktail the ends to give it a more polished look. So to ducktail my ends, I'm folding my ribbon in half and I'm going to count about 3 rows in, and I'm going to cut right on that third row of checks, and I'm going to cut in an angle all the way straight up to that wire, and that's going to create a nice V shape. And I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side. So now that we've connected our bow, it's time to attach our Merry and Bright, and to do so, all we need to do is add a generous amount of glue to the back side of the connecting points of the sign where they're going to be touching the wreath, like the back of the M, the B, the T, and the Y. And those are the only areas that we need to add glue to. So just to give you an idea of how it looks hung, I temporarily hung it on the wall until I decide where I'm going to be placing it at. But this is how it looks, all hung and festive for the holidays. I hope you enjoy.